A day after the Economy Commission overturned President Meta's decrees, the Democratic Party leader burst into accusations demanding attention to the horrific corrupt affairs. The head of state, Ilir Meta, appears to be the top state official to appear before an investigative commission. The day after the invitation by Ulcimania, the president said he was looking forward to returning to Parliament. The MIE has renewed its contract with the SGS Vehicle Technical Control Company in complete lack of transparency, with the original contract providing that negotiations must begin at least 2 years before the end of the concession. It's 6 o'clock on Wednesday, the 4th of September 2019. Good evening and thank you for tuning in to RTV Ora's English edition. My name is Alexandra, back to bring you the only daily update of the local Albanian news translated into English. And for the top story tonight, the opposition will continue to protest until the departure of Prime Minister Edi Rama. In order to coordinate the agenda, the Democratic Party leader Lulzim Basha held a meeting with the Socialist Movement for Integration leader Monica Kruamadi at the DP headquarters. At the end of the meeting, they also communicated with the media. Basha demanded everyone's attention for what he called the mega corruption occurring over the concessions of the Milot Baldren Road and the Oricum Ducat Road. The scandal with the two concessions of theft, the so-called PPPs of Milot Baldren and Vlor Oricum, demand the maximum attention possible from you as journalists. These are terribly corrupt affairs. At Milot Baldren, they want Albanians to pay a price up to 5 times higher than the real price. A considerable sum is also planned to be stolen from Vlor Oricum, said Basha. Citizens are in protest every day, said Monica Kruamadi. She underlined that political arrogance remains active even after 15 years. Arrogance has taken the lives of every citizen. The opposition action will continue as it is a direct wake-up call for Albanians, declared Kruamadi. The meeting between the two opposition leaders coincided with the arrival in Tirana today of the Officer for the US State Department, David Kostelancic. President Ilir Meta appears to be the highest official of the Albanian state to appear before an investigative commission. The day after the invitation by Ulcimania, the head of state announced that he would attend Parliament to be an example of institutional cooperation. My dear journalist friends, you have driven me crazy with your messages like never before. So what is this absurd question, you will ask me? Will I go to the Parliament? Firstly, the President, as head of state, has to be an example of institutional cooperation. And I believe that in these 2 years, I have done everything to establish this cooperation in full respect of the Constitution, the rule of law, and the public interest. Secondly, I look forward to returning to Parliament, declared Meta. Meanwhile, a day after overturning 5 decrees by the head of state for the return of laws, the majority rejected the candidacy proposed by President Ilir Meta for the head of the High State Control for the 3rd time. The name of Petrac Milo had the same fate as the previous proposals by the head of state for the appointment, those being Vittore Tusha and Bahri Sachiri. Meta's proposal is expected to go to Parliament for a vote as the conflict between the majority and the head of state means the high state control continues to be headed by Bujar Leskaj, despite his mandate expiring on December 23, 2018. The relaunch of silicon mix fertiliser back into the market is the reason for the commencement of the investigation into former Agriculture Minister Niko Pelesi. The General Prosecution requests the Tirana prosecution to launch an investigation into the order signed by Pelesi and published in the media, allowing the release of the insecticide silicon mix, which some have referred to as allowing 4,600 litres of poison to be put on the market. Regarding the case, Health Minister Olgerta Manastirliou says she will launch verifications for products that cause damage to health. The person who denounced this case is former NFA Inspector Arben Shutai. He says silicon mix is marketed as a fraudulent product, labelled as fertiliser and not as insecticide. This case and others similar, for which Shutai said he has asked the National Food Authority to take measures, became the reason for his dismissal. Shutai adds that the content of silicon mix causes great damage to human health, especially in relation to the nervous system. The General Prosecution Office is awaiting responses from Italy and Greece to provide evidence for the investigations into Valdrin Pietri and Agim Kaimaku. In response to allegations of deliberately delaying the investigations into these two individuals, the press office at the General Prosecution distributed information which describes all the investigative actions carried out in each of these cases. Regarding the case of Agim Kaimaku, the prosecution states that on the 30th of August 2019, the Ministry of Justice requested collaboration with the Greek justice authorities in order to confirm the authenticity of the document entitled The Decision of the Yanina Appeals Prosecution, published by the Democratic Party. The Greek side was also required to administer any penal decision against the subject, such as security measures and sentencing, and to compare Agim Kaimaku's fingerprint traces. The prosecution says it is awaiting a response from Greek justice and police authorities, which are crucial to making a decision. The announcement by the prosecution also explains a moment when the Postal Service has confused the address of Agim Kaimaku, which resulted in the request for the submission of fingerprints to the forensic police not being received in due time. Meanwhile, in the case of Valdrin Pietri, the prosecution notes that on the 14th of August 2019, it has forwarded the Ministry of Justice's request for legal assistance to the subject, Valdrin Pietri, attaching criminal records of penal convictions by the Italian state. The prosecution explains that it is awaiting responses from the Italian state to assist in the progress with this case. According to the Democratic Party, Valdrin Pietri hid the arrest and deportation from Italy, which occurred during the years 2001 to 2002, while Agim Kaimaku was arrested and declared wanted in Yanina in 2003 under the name Yorgo Toto on charges of counterfeiting banknotes. The DP General Secretary, Guzman Bardi, has appeared in a Tirana court in the trial against Albert Veliu and other defendants in the case known as Babale. The Democratic official has been called in as a witness to explain the DP's denunciations on Agron Jafai, brother of the former Interior Minister Fatmir Jafai. After 2 consecutive calls, the court ordered the police to accompany Guzman Bardi, but he voluntarily appeared at Wednesday's hearing. Before the court, Bardi said the order to accompany him to police was illegal as he had no official summons. Guzman Bardi said in the court that the DP decided to publish the wiretapping for Agron Jafai after the Interior Minister's brother carried out drug trafficking with the support of politics. Bardi stressed that it was a journalistic investigation and that the author's life was in danger as the suspect was the brother of the former Interior Minister. The Democrat official said the case was not properly investigated by the prosecution. The contract for the extension of the concession for vehicle technical checks was set on the day the SGS company terminated the contract. The agreement signed back in 2009 stipulated that to extend the deadline, the negotiation should have started 2 years ago. However, if there were no talks 6 months before the end of the concession, the process of transferring assets to the state should have started. Despite this, Ora News sources have informed that talks between the two sides began on July 31 of this year. Beyond the complete lack of transparency from the Ministry of Infrastructure, it is citizens who will pay again as they complain about the service. The extension of the SGS contract has raised a number of questions as to who organised the meetings to extend the term of the SGS concession contract, who is behind the meetings of Minister Belinda Baluku to renew the contract with the SGS concessionaire. Sources from Ora News report that for this purpose a lawyer was also present at meetings with Minister Belinda Baluku. Meanwhile, doubts are raised about the interest of offshore companies backing the Albanian oligarchs. Ora News will continue to unveil new details of the new contract signed in the office of Belinda Baluku and the obligations that the company had to fulfil with the first contract. And that's the news across the country today. Thank you for watching our English edition this evening, and be sure to join us again every Monday to Saturday at 6 p.m. for the latest news from Albania. Once again, on behalf of Ora News, thank you and good night.